Hello, this is Lisa Tarich, and you're listening to an Oshawa Museum podcast. Today's topic is the history of Oshawa's Union Cemetery. This podcast series aims to actively promote awareness and appreciation of our community's history, highlighting remarkable artifacts, documents, photographs, or events from our past. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Oshawa's Union Cemetery is located at the northeast corner of King Street and Thornton Road, today spanning over 30 acres in size. The original 19 acres upon which Union Cemetery sits served as the Presbyterian burying ground and was purchased in 1848 from Robert and Euphemia Sears by the Secession Church. The earliest recorded burial in this cemetery is that of Alexander Armstrong, a farmer and local magistrate, interred in 1837. The land laying to the west of the Highway 2 entrance was the location of a brick Presbyterian church built in 1837, the original Presbyterian cemetery, a manse, and a school. The church was thought to be the first non-wooden public building in Ontario County. It was large, seating 500 people, and was used for a church and educational meetings. The church was destroyed by fire sometime after 1863. The church at Thornton's Corners served the Presbyterians until 1861, when the Whitby and Oshawa sections of the Presbyterian Church separated and the Oshawa group constructed a church in 1862 at the corner of Simcoe and Bruce Streets. At this time, land was set aside in the burying grounds as graves for the poor, marking the beginning of a community cemetery. The cemetery was used by the communities of both Whitby and Oshawa as a burying ground until 1875, when the cemetery came under the ownership of a holding company. One of the pressing concerns of the cemetery was that it could no longer serve the needs of the growing community of Thornton's Corners and surrounding area. The Oshawa Union Cemetery Company decided that, in the interests of the community, it would be best served by leaving the cemetery in the same location and purchasing the adjacent property to enlarge cemetery grounds. However, the original acreage remained under the control of St. Andrew's Succession until 1919. Due to the location of the new property, it was felt that the new cemetery should be made available to both Oshawa and Whitby as a Union burial ground. The name Oshawa Union Cemetery was chosen to reflect this ideal of a cemetery serving both communities. The plan for the laying out of this new cemetery was prepared by landscape architect H.A. Engelhart. One of Engelhart's most famous design projects was Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Toronto, which he designed in 1874. In 1875, Union Cemetery was expanded with the purchase of 12 acres, the land laying directly east of the North and South Presbyterian sections and south of the abandoned railroad. The layout of the cemetery contained 12 sections identified by letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I, J, K, L, and X. The sections are divided into rows or ranges running in a north-south direction, and each range is assigned a different number starting from east to west with the number 1. Every 2 ranges are separated by a 6-foot wide pathway and further divided into 8 feet by 12 feet lots. The lots were given a number starting from 1. Every lot was then divided into 4 graves of equal size, 3 feet by 8 feet, and starting from the south identified as grave A, B, C, and D. It wasn't until 1922 that the cemetery became the property of the town of Oshawa through the generosity of George W. McLaughlin when he purchased the shares held by the Ontario Loan and Savings Company and William H. Thomas. He then presented the property as a gift to Oshawa. He also secured the title deeds to the adjacent Presbyterian cemetery. The land comprised of about 30 acres. In addition, Mr. McLaughlin gave $500, which was to be used to move the bodies of deceased World War I soldiers to the veterans' plots. In 1942, continuing their support of Oshawa's veterans, Sam and George McLaughlin donated land for the interment of World War II veterans. The large mausoleum, which can be seen from Highway 2, was constructed by Canada Mausoleums Limited and granted to the city of Oshawa on January 26, 1926. It was built in an adaptation of Roman architecture with a limestone exterior and features massive bronze doors, stained glass motifs, and a black and green marble flooring. Inside, there are 310 crypts, and at either end of the crypt corridors are private chapels, separated from the corridors by bronze gates, which are owned by prominent Oshawa families. The cemetery office, located at the front gates, was built in 1934 and was originally used as a funeral chapel. Today, Union Cemetery is an active facility with over 25,000 burial locations. People can be found using the cemetery grounds for walks, bike rides, and as a resource for tracing one's family roots. The Oshawa Museum has a good relationship with Oshawa's Union Cemetery and offers annual cemetery tours, highlighting a different section or theme, and we will also offer educational programming in the cemetery, working with local high schools and touring students through the World War I and World War II veterans plots. Since 2016, we have offered a unique event called Scenes from the Cemetery, a dramatic tour where local actors bring historical characters to life. This has been an Oshawa Museum podcast. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to check out our other historical video podcasts and subscribe to our channel.